What's up, everyone? Beast Mode back here with another video. So today I wanted to make a quick video. It's been a couple weeks. I haven't been playing a whole lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Aside from my War League matches. I've been just kind of slowly taking a little bit of a break. It's been a bit stale, and I find that if I take a week or two off from playing, kind of remotivates me to get back into the game. I am dealing with some personal matters, so at this time, Snack, the moderators, and the War Chiefs are dealing with the Edison War League. Everything is going to be the same. It's been the same essentially. They've been running the whole league the whole season anyway. I'm definitely going to be off of Discord for the next week, and I do plan to play in the RBT next Saturday. By that time, I should be ready to go. But again, I think it is good to take some breaks from the card game every now and then to really reflect on whatever else you have going on, and kind of makes you want to come back to the game after taking a bit of a break. So anyway, I wanted to quickly talk about the meta at this time, and it's been a few months. There's been, I don't know, maybe four or five tournaments so far, and there's been a couple things I've noticed. Obviously, Black Wings, especially in War League, have been just dominant. Everybody's playing them right now. It's kind of boring just playing a million Black Wing mirror matches. With zombies, it's like a 50-50 shot sometimes. It's never clear who's going to win this match. It all depends on when an Icarus attack flips. If it does it hit recruiters, does it hit goblin zombies? Are you playing around it well enough? Sometimes you play around this card too much, and then you end up getting hit with the Royal Oppression. So this matchup is, I have not been able to find enough of an edge versus Blackwing from the zombie point of view. Blackwing's arguably the best deck of the format for a long time. They're S tier. You can make argument with a couple other decks, but they've always been placed in S tier. So I don't think this deck is going anywhere. I think there was maybe one event that we did not see a Blackwing deck top, which was odd. Deck Devastation Virus destroys a lot of the other decks that are just running around, like zombies, quick draw, can hurt frogs sometimes, fairies. So this card's just completely unfair, and this deck completely can set it up and utilize it probably better than any other deck, maybe Value. And sideboard, if you're approaching this deck, what can you really side deck against it? Maybe you put in some Starlight Road, but good players will play around that card. Dust Tornado is really the only option you can have side decking against Blackwing, and it's a 1-for-1 trap card. It's really not that game breaking. So my point is the deck is extremely resilient. There's not many side deck cards that really hurt the deck. They have access to all the best side deck cards. I can sit here and talk about this all day, but it's pretty obvious why the deck is so good. So I would definitely prepare to see this for the next all of eternity when it comes to Edison. I don't think this deck's going anywhere. This deck has been really popping up a lot. Diva Hero. I've only played one actual tournament with this deck, and I pretty much put it away. It was fine. It's just it's explosive. It was fun playing for the event. I did well with the deck, but it's just not my play style. I don't like spending every card in my hand to try to set up a board that can sometimes be broken. But there are a couple players running around that are doing really well with this deck, and it's been consistently making top cuts. Top 8, top 16. It's kind of been popping up. I don't even know whose build this is. I just kind of downloaded some so we could showcase the decks, but they have various different builds with traps, and some are playing Gold Sark, some play Deck Devi in the main board, some are playing Snowman, but they're all relatively the same at this point. I think most are playing some type of traps, and the reason why this deck is so good is because it can just literally win turn one. It can be so explosive that it just makes a board that's unbreakable. Other times the deck can literally just fumble any match or any game because it draws double Mally and double Miracle Fusion. So it's kind of the problem with it, the inconsistencies. But when you run hot with this deck, you can pretty much beat anything just because of how explosive it is. So I do expect to see more of this. It has not won a tournament yet, but it's gotten close as far as I know. And I do think it's a matter of time. This was very interesting here, the whole sideboard into Hero Beat. I just noticed that. I'm not sure if this is something that will continue, the trend will continue, but this was pretty interesting. This Hero Beat deck in itself is not good. I don't think it's good. It occasionally tops events. It just does not have much going for it aside from Absolute Zero, where you can probably just play this build and actually have an explosive deck where this is like Summon Alias, and if you have Spark, that's about the best play it has. So but I would keep your eye on Diva Hero. I think the deck is good enough to win an event. It hasn't yet. It's not very popular. Not many people are playing it because of the fact that it's probably not the most simple deck. Like you have to definitely set some plays up, especially if you're playing the gold stock version. You have to be able to kind of look ahead and see what card you may need, unless it's screamingly obvious you need a certain piece, but it's not always that obvious. And also, playing this deck, sometimes you just have to, send everything, and if it works, then you win, but sometimes you don't. So that could be a turn off for some players, but I would be on the lookout for Diva Hero. I do think that it's going to consistently perform well. This deck here is the one I really wanted to talk about the most, because I feel that this deck is competing very closely with Hero Frog, and I've been keeping an eye on this. It's been popping up in a lot of tournaments, and especially in top cuts, and it's not just Rognok who pretty much made the deck, I believe, as far as I know. He's pretty much makes all Frog decks, but I think that this deck may be better than Hero Frogs, and because I think at this point everybody knows the whole deal with Hero Frogs. For a while last year, when I felt that the deck was probably the best of the format, and it was very strong at the time, was because I think a lot of players, including myself, I did have a tough time with the matchup. We were just having a hard time playing against the deck, and I think that that's kind of caught on now. Aside from War League, where there's a few players who are doing really well, but there's a lot of new players in War League. There's 32 teams of 8 players, so it still does feast on newer players, and it's very common in local scenes because there's a lot of people who don't play Edison all the time. They pick up the format for the first time. Oh, I'm just going to play my locals, and then you have someone who's playing Frogs, and it's a difficult matchup to navigate if you've never played against it. So Frogs still do well, especially in certain areas where players are not as involved in the format, or maybe not as good. But this here I think is better because of this card here. Light and Darkness Dragon is really underrated. I know that there is a few cards that can completely beat it, Light Sworn Monsters, Vayu, Frog, but that doesn't really matter in this deck because they literally can turn off their own Light and Darkness Dragon at any given time with the Treeborn Frog, and then they summon swap and bounce it back to their hand as cost, and then they can drop it again. So this card is really strong because it shuts down a lot of decks. It can completely destroy zombies, any recruiters, anything like that. Completely destroys Dragon Turbo. It can destroy many decks. It's obviously broken and requires a few cards just to out it, and then of course it has its effect that when it does go to the graveyard, you special summon another monster back. I felt that the Hero Frog deck was probably better when there was more Monarchs in it, just because of how you can just slam Monarchs and get away with it sometimes. It's become more combo based, and it's really more based around dropping absolute zero. The thing has like 5,000 attack because you have 3 dupe Frogs on the field and all that. But this here is a new trend. And the trap lineup is also annoying because you can't really play a slow game versus the deck because they just keep bouncing things or destroying things, and then once they drop a lad, like, how do you deal with it? This deck is not one I want to see at any round in any tournament, just because I typically play zombies. But maybe you can, I'm sure Valu's probably strong against this because you can activate Value and negate the dragon. But I do think, and then of course you have Titania, which in my opinion is just another blowout card in certain matchups. If it doesn't end up in your hand, and it's on the field, it's so strong. So I'm not surprised if this frog version here becomes a consistent top cut deck like it has been as of late. Maybe it doesn't dethrone Hero Frog. Maybe that's just me being crazy and outlandish, and that's fine. But I do think that this version is really good, and I like this card a lot. And if you can play this card, you probably should. It does. A lot of people don't know what it does. It's hard to interact. There's a lot of rulings with this card, and I think you can really take advantage of players not knowing how to play against this just because they don't see it often. So this would be something I would prepare for. If you stop seeing this in tournaments, I don't know what we're going to side deck to deal with it, but it's very strong. So last one is, of course, Dragon Turbo, and this deck has been topping the last few events. I think this is pretty much Ghost Rider's build. It's not really refining anymore. It's what it is. It's rather hard to play from what I hear. I don't play it myself. I think there is some sequencing of cards that has to be done the right way. It's not my favorite. I've said it many times. You all know that. And but the reality is it's a deck that's being played, so we have to take it into consideration when preparing for tournaments. And it is a very strong deck of the format. The only deck I don't actually have up right now is Vayu, because I'm sick of talking about Vayu. But it's obviously Vayu Turbo, Dragon Turbo. This deck's probably not it, but Blackwing are the top 3 right now, and then I would say Frogs. More people would say Hero Frog, but I do think that this deck is really strong right now. And if more people start playing with it, they might realize it may be better than Hero Frog. And I'm not a Frog player, but just based on what it does and what I've seen from replays, this card is game breaking. So top 8 predictions, just because I'm doing a quick video for RBET. Again, I wouldn't be surprised to see Dragon Turbo. You're going to see some Vayu. You're going to see some Blackwing. You're going to see some type of frog, whether it's this or Hero Frog. And you may see a zombie. The problem with zombies, it's clearly a 1.5 deck. It makes it, if you do get into top cut with zombies, it's not surprising if it wins a tournament, but it's definitely hard to go 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds and play against this, where one lad will just destroy 50% of your deck, 60% of your deck. Royal Oppression is going to come down at a time where it destroys you. Deck Devi, it's just there's a lot of cards that keep zombies in check, and it's hard to go a long tournament and not run into something like that. Not saying you can't beat it, but once you get into top cut, though, anything can happen. Anybody can win. It's really hard to win in top 8. Everybody is really good, and it takes a lot of luck to win a tournament. You got to be good, but you also got to be really lucky, and sometimes that's the most important thing, is luck. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say. If you need anything in the War League Discord server over the next week or two, Snack is running the show, as well as the moderators and War Chiefs. And with that being said, I'll see you all on the next one.